It was last summer. My girlfriend, now wife, and I finally made the big decision to move in together. Cobblestone Square is a situation of apartment complexes surrounding a center park. After living in another apartment for 2 years, I learned a bigger apartment was opening up on the other side of the complex. We needed bigger space because my wife had 2 children from a previous marriage. After a rushed inspection, we were happy to move in as June started. The months passed and the days grew shorter and colder. Autumn was drawing close, and with it, that's when the trouble began. In all the stories and movies, it starts out small. Things moving from place to place, lights being left on, etc. All chalked up to forgetfulness. This was true in our case, and we didn't think much of it. It only started to escalate with the children. Our apartment is set up with 2 bedrooms and baths on the opposite end of each other. In our bedroom, we have our own private bathroom, and next to the kids' room is a small hallway leading to their own bathroom. We would give them baths here and potty train, and almost as if flicking a switch, when the autumn months came, our youngest, a 2-year-old girl, would absolutely hate going into the bathroom. At the mere mention of bath time, she would go into hysterics. Or, on good days, she would sit in the bath, and in the process of bathing, she would look past myself and my wife and start screaming and crying. Oftentimes, something would catch her eye in the mirror, and she would also start crying like mad. The most unsettling part would be that as soon as we took her out of the bathroom, she would stop and act like nothing happened. Our son, who was 4 at the time, also would run up to us and say that he would hear a voice saying, "Uppy," which is a common saying among the children when they wanted to be held. We asked if it was his sister, and he would profusely say it wasn't her, but he did say it sounded like a kid. This happened a few times. With my wife being separated from her first husband and splitting custody, we would have the children come live with us every other week. On the weeks that the children would go stay with their dad, the activity would seem to die down, but that didn't mean it wouldn't happen. I asked my wife if she remembered anything from last year, and she recounted a time when we didn't have the children and she was cleaning the house. She noticed the kids' door was open. We usually keep it closed, but thought that maybe I went into the room for something. It wasn't until a while later that she used the kids' bathroom and saw that the door was open again. She found me in our room and asked if I opened it, and I said I didn't. With more incidents of lights being found on and doors opening, it all came to a head near the end of October when I was washing dishes in the kitchen. Above the sink facing the living room is a small window that allows someone in the kitchen to look out into the dining room and living room, and additionally the back door. After the kids had been put to sleep, my wife and I set about our nightly duties of chores to finish up before the next day started. As I was washing dishes, I looked up from the sink and saw in the glass of the back door a reflection of a large shadow in the hallway to the kids' bathroom. It quickly entered the bathroom, and I immediately walked over, turning on the light, and saw nothing there. I went to my bedroom where my wife was vacuuming, and I asked her if she by chance went into the kids' bathroom. I wasn't surprised by her response when she said no, and I told her what I saw. It was after this event, and subsequently Halloween, that all the activity seemed to stop. Months passed by again, and now we jump to 2020, August. As soon as the activity started again, I kept a journal of all of the findings. That way there was a record. On August 10th, I went to go to the bathroom in the kids' bathroom before going to bed and heard a small child giggle. Both children were fast asleep. August 11th, my wife was bathing our daughter, and in the first time in a year, our little girl started to shriek in fear until she was out of the bathroom. August 13th. While getting ready for bed, our son knocked on the door. I'm always the one to answer, and he told me that he was afraid. He wouldn't elaborate on what it was, but begged for the closet to be closed. The closet has never been a problem. and a few nights after this, we returned it to being open and haven't experienced anything like it again. August 15th, my wife and I had an argument, and I went to sleep on the couch for the night. As I was tossing and turning, I heard a child's voice in the night, as if answering a question. I forced myself to go to sleep. Both myself and my wife have caught our son speaking to himself. My wife told me that once she heard him saying, "Ow, stop it, you're hurting me." And when she went to go check on him, he was in the hallway by the kids' bathroom, holding his arm. During the daytime, the kids were playing and both me and my wife were doing our own thing. As I was sitting on the couch, our son runs behind it, stops, and then says, "And how would you do that?" Out of the blue. I turn to him and ask him who he's talking to, and after a moment's hesitation, he says, "Nobody." I told him I heard him say something, and he insisted that he didn't say anything. One occasion, my wife was sleeping on the couch, and in the middle of the night, she heard a man's whisper, "Don't get up," to which she promptly obeyed. It was the night after that I woke up from my sleep in the bed to see a shadow shape standing over me with red eyes. I felt as if it was going to hurt me. My wife and I have naturally begun our interest in the spiritual world. We began researching and looking for ways to go about this. We've purchased a Ouija board with no results, and from a medium, a supposedly haunted ring. If our apartment was going to be haunted, we wanted to know by who and with what intentions. It seems as if our mail order ghost has already made their home, as one morning our front door was unlocked and slightly ajar, nothing stolen. Tonight, as I write this, my wife and I were watching TV on the couch and decided to call it a night. As we went to our bedroom, I noticed a low scratching sound coming from the record player. I opened it up and saw that the turntable was moving as the needle was off its holder, turning the record player on. I replaced the needle and tried knocking the player a few times to see if it could have been easily bumped and knocked off, but no. The only way to move the needle was to pick it up with your fingers and set it down. I was reminded of one other time that this happened, long before we bought any haunted items. September 4th, after coming home from work, I noticed that the bathroom door was open. After we left it closed all day, and I even asked my wife if she went in there, and of course, she said no. At night, before bed, my wife stood in the doorway of our bedroom, staring with eyes wide open. I asked her what the problem was, and she said that she heard someone slapping their palm against the sliding glass door. We investigated and found nothing. September 6th. My wife and I have a small collection of swords that we keep safely in our room. A few are propped up against the wall, being that we had no space. At 7:38 a.m., I woke up to a crashing noise, noticing that the swords propped up had fallen over. It could easily be dismissed as a slippery surface, but we had them in a way where they were firmly against the wall and have never fallen over before. September 7th, Labor Day. No surprise that this is the day we get the kids back, and immediately the activity becomes more rampant. With the day cold and rainy, we spent the holiday indoors and nothing to do but watch TV and eat. As we're doing this, I hear a thud come from the bedroom. Looking in, I see that a Toy Story Woody doll is on the ground. I received it for Christmas from my in-laws and put it on top of the bookshelf next to Buzz. Never has this fallen over, or at the very least, was unsteady. My wife mentioned how I left out another event from this last year that happened to her. She was quick to remind me that once when she was in the bathroom putting on makeup, she saw a face behind the door, almost as if peeking in. She turned and saw nothing. My sister-in-law is an employee at Best Buy and gave us the courtesy of purchasing a security cam for us. All updates will be posted. September 13th. With the installation of the camera, it seems that things have died down, which brings us a sigh of relief. We talked with our son, who's 5, and he told us that sometimes in his room, he feels as if someone is watching him. And not only that, but someone speaks to him. He told me that it sounded like a little boy whispering in his ear when he's laying in bed after we say goodnight. He says the voice says, "Time to go to sleep," every time that it speaks. I asked if he felt like it was going to hurt him, and he said no. This morning, as I typed this, he came rushing to the room and said he heard it again. It was the night before that I set up a microphone to record in the night. I've looked back on the recording and my findings are inconclusive. The children have a white noise machine going on in their room all night, which my son said is where he hears the voice coming from. I've checked the audio closely, and even at hours where the children are definitely asleep, it still sounds like there are full-on conversations happening between people. As of now, I can't make out anything they're saying, and as I understand, white noise machines are meant to mask peak noises, such as conversations from another room. It requires more attention to understand what's going on, but at least my son saying that he hears a little boy confirms my theory of having a ghost child in the home, whom I've heard twice. The week of the 13th through the 19th of September proved to be fruitless in our attempts at capturing any more audio or video. That was the week that we didn't have the children. We switched with their father on Sunday evenings. That being said, the past week of the 20th through the 26th proved to be quite different. The night of the 21st was eventful. We captured a series of events on the camera in the kids' room, and I'll list the timestamps. 8:18 p.m. My wife enters the room with our son to put him to bed. Absolute darkness. Not that the room is dark, but the screen is dark, and there is absolutely no audio. In between these times, my wife comes into our bedroom where I'm on the bed, getting ready to sleep, and she tells me that she heard the kids' door open while she was in the kids' bathroom cleaning. A voice whispered and said, "Mom?" She whispered back, "What?" and felt the clear presence of somebody standing behind her. She turned around and saw nothing. 8:22 p.m. The camera captures our son getting out of bed and leaving the room, where he tells us that he was having a bad dream. September 23rd, 3:14 a.m. Both the microphone setup and the camera capture our son getting up in bed and saying, "That's mine. No, that's mine." September 25th. This night was a big night. I would usually start the recording on the laptop and microphone after the children were fast asleep, but I was so tired myself that I fell asleep early before I had the chance to. The next morning, I noticed the door to the kids' room was open by a large margin. We have ingrained the idea of shutting doors into both kids' head, and even checking the camera footage, our son does take the time to close the door after leaving the room. He didn't get up again for the night. My wife stayed up later than myself and confirmed that the door was indeed shut. 1:25 a.m. Our son wakes up and notices either the door opening or the door being open, and promptly throws the covers over his face and goes back to sleep. September 26th, 5:20 a.m. A small tap is heard on our bedroom door. I figured it was our son, so I got up and opened the door, but nobody was there. 6:06 a.m. Our son comes to our door saying that he heard a voice saying, "Hey." I checked the mic, and indeed, before our son wakes up, there is the slightest whisper of "hey," and then our son begins to stir as if he's scared in his sleep and wakes up entirely. 8:59 a.m. While going over the recordings in the kids' bedroom, a few books on the bookshelf fell over. October 7th. It's been a while since I've come back and posted on this, and that's because the activity that's been happening has been nothing more than the expected phantom knocking. Nothing extreme, until last night. We bought for our kids 2 small pumpkins to paint, and we set them on the table out of the way, but this morning both pumpkins were off the table sitting on the floor. One was in the living room and one was in the hallway by the kids' room. October 8th. This morning, my wife said when she was getting ready in the bathroom, she heard what sounded like whispers coming from the bedroom. She looked out, expecting to see the kids, but nobody. Out of the whispers, she could make out, "There she is." I asked what it sounded like, and she said, "Like a little kid. That's why I thought it was ours." On the night of October 8th, we got in the mail a ghost sweeper, a device that sweeps through radio waves and can pick up EVPs. I was excited to use it when it charged, so after the kids were asleep and my wife was in our bedroom, I sat in the living room and held our mail-order ghost, Gloria, who was attached to the ring. Now to note, every time I hold this ring, I get a headache, and last night was no different. I turned on the sweeper and simply said, "Hello?" while holding Gloria. I cannot confirm what I heard, but I heard what sounded like a woman's voice say, "Hello?" back to me. I quickly asked more questions, but nothing more was heard. I decided to put Gloria on. She fits only on one finger, my left pinky, and then I went to bed. I usually fall asleep on my back and stay that way. Once in a while, I'll turn on my side, but last night I couldn't get to sleep until I rolled onto my left side, the same side Gloria was on. Anytime I laid on my back or turned right, I would wake up until I returned to the left side. It was interesting. I am thoroughly convinced my apartment is haunted. People die in them way too often to think it's not a possibility. And if nobody died here, the cemetery across the road definitely doesn't bring me any comfort. As I write this, I can say that two distinct entities can somewhat be accounted for. A small child ghost and something else. Or maybe something that wants to be viewed as a child. We still live here to this day, and autumn is just beginning. That's when things seem to really get interesting around here.